Shalom. I'd like to address the upcoming Jewish holiday season as an integrated whole. Our holidays are so full of meaning and tradition and food that it's easy to be swept away and encompassed by the focus on each singular day. But the holidays, apart from each one having its own intrinsic value, are also to be taken as a unit. In Israel, we have a saying for those who want to procrastinate, let's deal with it acharei hagim, after the holidays are over. And this is most often taken to mean those couple of weeks, the holiday season that begins with Rosh Hashanah, continues with Yom Kippur, and finishes with Sukkot. So how do these days fit together, besides the fact that they all fall within a few days of each other? One way to look at the holidays is to imagine a trial. On Rosh Hashanah, the trial opens, and opening statements are made by both the defense and the prosecution. Many believe that this trial is presided over by God, and that one's deeds and actions over the past year are witnesses, while the person's future is in the balance. But there are other alternatives on how one can understand this trial. For instance, we ourselves can be the judge. The Hebrew word for prayer, tefillah, derives from the same word as an ancient word for judging or judgment. In other words, if you go to the synagogue or you stay at home, but you use a prayer book or you use your own thoughts, we, in a way, are judging ourselves. We're weighing our deeds. We're perusing the actions of the last year and setting our sights on the coming year. And we can be both our best defenders and our best prosecutors too. We shouldn't forget, of course, throughout all this judgment process that Rosh Hashanah is also New Year's, and it's certainly a time for joy. We made it through another year, yeah. We were granted an entire year of life by the powers that be. We're still alive. And we have the privilege of going through yet another yearly process of introspection. But this trial, as it were, is not just between me, myself, and I. Since humans often err and hurt each other in the process, we are expected to pull ourselves together and have the basic goodwill to ask forgiveness from those whom we've hurt. This is the way to start a new year, not just by celebrating, not just by judging, not just by making resolutions, but by being humble enough to ask forgiveness from others and being compassionate enough to grant forgiveness for those who request it from us. And that we traditionally do during those 10 days between Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the trial, and Yom Kippur, the end of the trial. After this process of Rosh Hashanah and asking forgiveness and granting it, it's time for a cleansing. Ever done a cleansing? I did one once. I ate grapes for 10 days, and it had an amazing effect on both body and soul. So imagine a spiritual cleansing. It's time to take 25 hours of our life, once a year, and totally transcend the physical. We won't eat, we won't interact, we won't work, we won't play, we won't allow for any distractions. We will be focused on self-betterment. Yom Kippur is not necessarily a sad day, unless fasting makes you sad. Of course, the whole idea is to transcend hunger and not focus on the fact that you're suffering the entire day, although that's also, for some people, part of the day. In fact, Yom Kippur is traditionally a happy day because cleansing often brings relief and allows for a fresh new start. But it definitely is a solemn day. And as this solemn day draws to an end, we traditionally allow ourselves to break down, often in tears. You can see it in synagogues in Israel and many places during that last part of the day, in the prayer service known as Ne'ilah, right before the locking of the gates, as it were, the gates of prayer. And we beg for another year of sweet life. I might not have had a great year. I might not deserve it. But if I'm granted life in this coming year, I am going to make it the best year I've had yet. And then the sun sets, the stars come out, the shofar is blown, and the trial is over. What was the verdict? Well, if you can still get out of bed the next morning and ask that question, then you're still alive, and let's hope that at least symbolically we were pardoned and allowed to live another year of life. Yay, we won. Maybe. So let's celebrate. Let's have a holiday that focuses on joy, on celebration, and on appreciation. 2, 4, 6, 8, who do we appreciate? Life, life, yay, life. So only after going through this process of honest introspection and heavy-duty cleansing can we really appreciate this holiday of happiness called Sukkot. It's not just a holiday of celebrating life, it's a holiday of celebrating light after dealing with lots of darkness. As one Livnot past participant once told me, I took a candle and I went around the darkest, deepest, inner recesses of my soul, and I didn't always like what I saw, but I did it. So we got through Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. We faced our weaknesses. We faced our strengths, which, by the way, are sometimes much scarier than our weaknesses. And we emerged, as it were, we hope, a better person. There's another aspect of how these holidays fit together like Lego. During the high holidays, we focused on bettering ourselves, on self-improvement. The days of awe are not for us to suggest to others how they should improve. We don't do that. It's only allowed within the framework of our own personal and intimate self-judgment. It's kept between ourselves, not shared. But on Sukkot, we share. We leave our personal selves and we become part of a greater whole. One focus of this greater whole can be our families, our communities, our people. Another focus of this greater whole can be the entire world. So we leave our homes temporarily and we live nearby in simple huts, something which certainly has the potential of bringing families together, at least in theory, but if you plan it right, it can actually be a very bonding experience. We take the 4 kinds of plants and we hold them together, the lulav, the palm branch, the etrog, the citrus, the hadas, the myrtle, and the arava, the willow, and we bring them together and hold them in a symbolic gesture that shows the unity of the Jewish people and the unity of the world. And we ask for rain with these plants. Rainfall that will bring abundance and joy and livelihood and plenty to the land of Israel. And rain doesn't just fall here for Jews alone. It falls for everybody. Rain is unity. In ancient times, when the temple stood in Jerusalem, we offered 70 special sacrifices for the goodness of the 70 nations of the world, all of humanity. And also, if we add sleeping outside, if you like that sort of thing, especially when the weather is pleasant, as it usually is, pretty much in the land of Israel at this time, and Chevra, of course, who've been at Livnot know that sleeping on the porch or in the 3-day hike or the desert hike can often help one become one with nature, with the stars, with the earth that you're sleeping on, with the elements, with the cosmos. So right now is the time for pomegranates in the land of Israel. We eat them on Rosh Hashanah, and we hang them in our Sukkot, on Sukkot. Look at it, it's beautiful. Now let's compare it with a date, okay? Now, this has just one seed, and this has hundreds of seeds, and they're all kept together by this beautiful peel. So perhaps we can think of the high holidays as a date. All I have to work with right now is one seed. That's all I can focus on right now. I gotta make this the best date I can make it. And Sukkot is more like a pomegranate. You leave the oneness of yourself, of the dateness of yourself, and you connect with your family, community, your people, with the entire world. And while we're on the subject, if you want to connect with other wonderful people like yourself and you happen to be in Israel, Livnot is having a great program between October 1st and 7th that will focus on unity. And you're all welcome to come and partake in the great Livnot pomegranate. Chag Sameach.